Altbays. Altbays.
Altbays.
Altbays.
Oh, baby.
Oh, we got all the voices going on tonight. I love it. The new harmonies for our introduction. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Kia ora te whānau, we're live. Altbays show brought to you by Altbays.nz. If you're watching us right now, you're watching us on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. You can also become a member, put some dollars there for the team, which helps us to keep growing and bringing cool people to chat. You will find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all the leading audio platforms as well. So if you don't have time to watch us live, you can obviously download or just stream from your favorite audio platform. Do that. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, the Madhouse. TikTok, we love TikTok, man. What a place to be. Wow, it gets you, eh? Like suddenly you're there for hours.
You got a problem.
I can say that I'm working, Johnson, but that's a bloody bad excuse. How are you, bro?
Oh, good, bro. You know, I felt generous. So I feel like I felt generous to come back on the show. Yeah, it was a pretty gangster show on Tuesday, and I'm more than happy to come back and be a co-host.
Johnson Manukau show 185. If you missed that, make sure to check it out on all the platforms. Did you feel comfortable? Did you feel okay?
Yeah, no, you guys made me feel like this is a safe space, and then I could share my opinions without having to be like, okay, I shouldn't have said that. It was like no pressure whatsoever, which I was able to be my authentic self and not have that filter. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
For the people who are tuning in for the first time and didn't get to watch the show on Tuesday, Johnson, upcoming artist on his mission as an actor, living in Auckland, living in Whitianga, doing his thing all over Aotearoa, doing beautiful stuff. How was your run today?
Yeah, no, it was pretty mean. I usually start at Evolution Fitness and then make little circuits around there. Like I do circuits on this side and then circuits on this side, like in different angles. So I don't get complacent when I run. That's why I don't like running on treadmill, because you're just looking at the wall and like, bloody, I'll go insane.
Fair enough, bro. The active. I like it. Tonight with us, we have the pleasure to chat with Mr. Fredrick Pokai. Kia ora, my bro.
Kia ora. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Shit.
You on a co-mission in Whitianga, eh? Doing heaps.
Oh, yeah, man. It's been quite the day. So, started off, I went into CFM, or Coromandel FM.
Shout out to CFM.
Yeah, shout out to CFM for having me on there. Shot guys. I was just kind of looking to get them to put out a reminder that there's a event happening this weekend, and I ended up having a full-on interview with them.
For the people who are watching us right now and sometimes they don't have time to watch the whole show, what is happening on Friday before we forget?
Okay, so first and foremost, it is Saturday.
So great, Leo.
Yeah.
Good man.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't read the memo,
When I watched the podcast on Tuesday.
It's got day in it, bruv, so you're doing something.
Yeah. Hey, you got day right, so that's good.
Saturday.
But no, it's all right. There was a bit of a mix-up in the communication there. So originally it was going to be Friday, but then it got turned to Saturday. So this Saturday at 4 p.m, I'm going to be putting on, I guess you could call it a bit of an exhibition. So it's 4 films that I've chosen, 4 short films that I've worked on, mostly as an actor and a writer. I had a plethora of films to choose from, which was pretty cool. But the 4 films that I chose, I felt like these held a special place for me. And I thought they'd probably be the most entertaining and also probably the best films that I could find to show my diversity as a performer. Yeah.
Shout out to Mercury Twins Cinemas. So
Yeah.
on Saturday, 4 p.m., you can buy tickets online. You can book them, or I'm sure you can get some.
Yeah, I think you
on the
can.
day
You
as
can
well.
also just walk in as well, but I probably suggest booking online because tickets are they're just going out. They're just going out of the windows,
Shit, I'll be
out
there.
the door. So yeah,
Oh, man.
chair.
All
That's the
right, so Fredrick is an Aotearoa New Zealand filmmaker, writer, actor, and director. He's currently releasing his short film Search for Hawaiki. Did I say it
Yes.
right?
Yep, beautiful.
Search for Hawaiki, which has been 11 years in the making. Amazing. Fredrick has worked on nearly 40 films in his career, ranging from independent low budget to big budget movies. He was also a pro wrestler, woo-wee, under the alias of FTG, Fredrick the Great.
FTG. Yes.
Which was his
Represent.
childhood. Can you announce you as you would in the pro wrestling?
I guess I would say, well, my little jingle that I never quite got a chance to use, but I also always practiced it in the mirror was, I am the greatest damn thing to step into the ring, Fredrick the Great. And it never quite, unfortunately, thank you. And unfortunately, I never quite got a chance to do that. They never really let me on the microphone in the old pro wrestling shows. So, yeah, I never quite got a chance to actually spit that out. But
Done, sorted. You just did it.
That's a pretty cool thing because you're taking the leap into something that you like. So how was your how did you feel going into your debut for your pro wrestling?
Oh, geez. Well, I was actually really underprepared. So I started training at I think it was near the end of 2009. I think I was training, and then about 4 or 5 months later, I debuted. So I was so inexperienced, and my first match was so me and the guy I faced, we had to do this little sequence of moves called Pattern 1. Shout out to Martin Sterling for Pattern 1. I'll never forget it. I still remember every move, but it was just something he just loved watching the wrestlers do, which was this kind of pre-planned sequence of moves for a wrestling match, and for him it was just perfection. Everyone should do Pattern 1, and everyone's like, Pattern 1. So that was so I mean, my first match, I don't know if it's out there. If anyone has that match, delete it, just delete it. So I was doing that for a couple of years, and then I got injured, and there was a few politics stuff, I was having clashes with a few of the boys, and I was like, fuck this shit, I'm gonna pursue other things as well. And then I ended up getting into the film industry. So
Just excuse my ignorance,
Yeah.
but I'm not shy with my questions. Is the pro wrestling the one they're
WWE style.
WWF,
So, it's
Stone
all-
Cold Steve
is it
Austin.
all
The Rock.
already rehearsed and everything?
Yeah.
Even who's gonna win, who's gonna lose?
It's
How does that work?
It's definitely choreographed. So I mean, one of the biggest things is yes, it is choreographed. It is I wouldn't say scripted, but choreographed. But the slams that we take are real.
Yeah.
If especially when you're doing your strikes, your kicks, and your punches. If someone fucks it up, you're gonna actually get punched in the face. And then what happens is if someone gets carried away and keeps doing it, we call it a receipt. There you go. See, our man knows. So it's a receipt. So say if someone's getting a bit carried away, they're getting a bit excited, say they're fired up and they're laying into you with forearms, and they start hitting you hard, and you kind of give them this hey bro, lighten up. And then if they keep doing it, then it's called a receipt. So the next time it's okay, you've just taken all these 20 forearms to the face. I'm going to sling you into the rope, and I'm going to clothesline the shit out of you, and it's probably going to give you a concussion, but the show must go on. So I've never had to give anyone a receipt. Probably one of the biggest complaints I had about my wrestling matches was I was a bit too much of a light worker. They're like, oh, you could actually hit me. I'm like, why would you want me to hit you? The idea is to make it seem like I'm hitting you, not like I'm actually going, because I'm sure if I gave you a good enough hit, it's not going to be pretty,
Yeah, because to me, pro wrestling is like physical theatre.
It
and
is,
you and your
definitely.
partner are trying to, it's like a dance. You guys have to trust each other and see each other. And if one's not communicating properly with the other, then it just makes the match ugly.
Yeah,
And
it makes the match ugly. The match can fall apart. So, there are so many stories of, and it's the same thing in the film industry, like stories of actors or like wrestlers that can't stand each other behind the scenes, but then they get out into that ring and they're putting their health and their safety in the hands of the person that they can't stand, and yet you can still go out and perform together, and then be like, and have your match, and it's a real good match, and then go out the back and be like, up yours.
Who are the greatest, or who are?
Are you meaning in like New Zealand, or are we talking WWE?
Both. You tell me.
Well, in my opinion, the greatest wrestler to ever exist is always going to be Ric Flair, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. In my opinion, like I took a lot of his what do you say? I really assimilated a lot of his moves and his personality and what the moves said as well. Very simple wrestler. He was a guy that, like, honestly, anyone could beat him on any given day. But the thing that made him such a heel was his ability to slip out of that and come away with the victory. And his nickname is the dirtiest player in the game. And he was back in those days. So I have, anytime anyone asks me who's my favorite wrestler, it's like Ric Flair, Macho Man Randy Savage, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, The Rock. And then, even John Cena would be on that list nowadays. He's hit legendary status now that he's been in the game for over 20 years.
And he's quite generous too.
He's really generous, and I think it's cool that he made a good transition into Hollywood himself. So he's doing a lot of films now. I think he's in the part of the Fast and Furious family.
Yeah,
right.
So he's
Peacemaker in the DC.
Peacemaker. Now he's really good in that, and as a wrestler, like he's actually like crying and stuff. So he's expressing a like plethora of emotions. Where like you watch a film with The Rock, and The Rock's just like, I'm The Rock and I'm wearing real tight shirts and my muscles have muscles on top of the muscles, like he's just a walking muscle man. And no disrespect to The Rock, I think he's done an amazing thing for his career, but he definitely knows where he fits in the Hollywood scene, and he knows what his niche is. Dave Bautista is the one that really blew me away. His transition into
Guardians of the Galaxy,
yeah.
Drax.
Oh, Dave Bautista. Sorry, I always call him Batista though. Guardians of the Galaxy. What was the other one? Blade Runner 2049, I think it was called. With a sequel to Blade Runner, Skyfall. There was another film, but anyway, Dune. So I feel like he's definitely had more of a variety of characters and acting styles compared to The Rock, and he's always been like that. He's like, if I'm going to get into acting, I don't want to be considered as like the next Rock. Like I want to be my own kind of person in the acting business.
I agree with definitely David Bautista's doing quite well, but The Rock has had some, obviously the Hollywood success I'm going to separate, but he's had some versatility. Let's say the game plan, pain and gain, faster,
walking tall, like in his earlier years, and that was because he wasn't as like as he is now, like, and because he's so jacked now, like there's really only one kind of style that he does, but he does it so well, which is of course the tight shirts, like the jungle, what is it, Jumanji and all those kind of, like I think I saw this meme and it was
Journey to Jumanji and what's that new one that he did?
Jungle Cruise.
Yeah,
so it was like an image.
All the same, eh?
Yeah, it was like literally like him in these tight shirts and he had his hands on his hips, and it's like, this is literally The Rock in 4 different films, and you're just like, the versatility.
Well,
but
that's the thing, eh? The bro gets the opportunity to be in all these platforms, even if he's playing a stereotype.
Yeah.
Like he's still being, like he represents a lot of people by being there, right? And like taking the money is never a problem.
No. Exactly. So from what I can see, like he's on the right path, and I mean he's a very inspirational guy.
Do you guys find him a good actor?
The Rock, he's, in my opinion, he's probably not going to get lined up for an Oscar anytime soon, but maybe all it takes is the right role for him, and
he's definitely the hardest worker in the hardest work in the room, and he has his own film production, which he can pump out things, but he's not my cup of tea in terms of like you said, he found his niche, and I agree, because then now he's pretty much the same character the whole way.
Yeah. But hey, it's still bringing him money, so why change it?
Why change? Yeah. Keep the cycle going if you're making millions and millions of dollars.
Oh, he's a billionaire now, so I mean, it's that transition for those wrestlers has been quite amazing, and yeah, I guess I kind of follow suit in that way. But like, you know, I have less muscles, less money, you know, less followers, you know. So it's like I'm following the same path, but it's like less of everything.
You got a few productions on your back though, bro.
Yeah,
that's a big thing, eh?
It's huge, and it's like I know a lot of my mates are actors, you know, and in the acting game, it's a hard one to crack, man. Like, it really is, and especially if you want to break out into like into more like supporting or leading roles, like it gets harder. Like I get denied all the time. Like, the jobs that I get are cool, but in between those jobs I've probably been denied like 10 times, you know, from just all these other things. And acting has definitely taught me how to handle rejection very well, you know, and understanding that it's not personal. Majority of the time, especially the bigger productions that you get to audition for, they've already casted their main person, but what they're looking for is someone to fill in. So say if the main person, you know, kicks the bucket or gets injured, then, you know, then they at least want to know that they can rely on a really awesome backup person to fill that role if it had to happen, or they'll just stop production. But yeah, that's what I found in my experience anyway.
Do you find Aotearoa New Zealand to have like this tight needs of the people who are always called to do jobs, and you gotta find your way?
Absolutely. Like, you get to a certain point where you can be comfortable just being an actor, but I've always had the philosophy of like, stay busy, learn every aspect of film. So if you're an actor, it's like, cool, but why not learn how to direct? Why not learn how to write your own scripts? Why not do some of the grunt work behind the scenes? So become a camera assistant or a grip or be a boom operator. I'm all about that. And I think I can honestly say that I've done nearly every role behind the scenes, like, you know, from boom operator to camera assistant to even crafty, which is of course serving food and coffees and that. I've done a bit of that. So I'm never shy to get my hands dirty. And most of the times, I don't know, I find the crew have a bit more fun and they work harder, definitely. The film crew definitely work harder, not discrediting what the actors have to go through. But without that crew, like, nothing is going to happen, mate. And that's and every actor that's been on set can acknowledge that.
I always appreciate those guys working behind the scenes, especially, you know, we were talking earlier today, especially the guys hiding the boom mic for hours on end, you know, just standing there, just holding the mic, making sure it's not picking up any extra sound.
No extra sound, airplanes or lawnmowers, or even like not a boom and shot. And that's the classic one. Boom and shot. So
retake the whole thing.
Yeah, do it again. It's like, that was the most emotional thing I've ever done, and you want me to
put a lot of energy into that.
I can't do it. You know, it's like, hurry up and do it. Hurry up, take two.
So that was the one that I chose to learn, like the technical bit that I can do. It's the sound. So at the start of the year, after a few years, a friend from Pigview Productions, Harley Neville, like top guy, he's doing some amazing stuff in Auckland. He invited me to do a Chinese short film.
Oh, cool.
All done in Chinese. Like was a big production, was fun.
Mean.
And so, you know, bringing back the boom and all my recorders and my mixers, and then I was like, oh, that's right, man, this is physical, you know, like you kind of forget, Good fun though.
Yeah.
Good fun, because as you said, you get to observe everyone's work. I love the part that I was doing in Brazil, and I always loved, was like preparing actors. So I would get the script and I would help the actors to turn those lines into something that sounds a bit more natural.
Yeah, hard out.
I always wanted to do that overseas, but then I realized I have to know the language and the slangs very well.
Yeah.
So like I was glad I had my technical thing of doing the sound, so I could still get jobs.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
You're right.
And that's the thing, is like, you know, as an actor, especially if you're coming up, like the jobs aren't always going to flow in, you know, they're not always going to come in. I remember going to the gig, my talent agent's end of year gig last year, and I met one actor, won't name him, but he was on Shortland Street like a number of years ago, and I walked up and I was like, hey, I remember you used to be on Shorties. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, so what you been up to since Shorties? He's like, nothing much. I'm like, okay. Oh, geez, that was a long time ago, bro. Like, so have you done any commercials? Like, yeah. Any theatre? Oh, I done a play like maybe a year ago. I'm like, wow. And so maybe he's doing other things as well to keep him busy. But I just thought, oh man, screw that. If you're like literally just in the industry to be an actor and you're like waiting at the phone or waiting for an email to come through for like a year or so. And even in that time, he's probably done a heck of a lot of auditions as well. So it can be a pretty heartbreaking industry, but I think there are definitely ways to curb that. And I think one of the best ways is to be a really good writer and start creating your own projects and start self-casting yourself, which I have for a few projects, not going to lie. Some people will give me a bit of flack for that, but I'm like, look, it's what's kept me busy. And it's kept me involved in the industry, and some of the stuff that I've written and casted myself in is some of the best work I've ever done. So, yeah, if it's working for me, why stop, you know? Yeah.
Fair enough. I see a lot of institutions in New Zealand, when you go apply for funding or when you present a project, there's always something there that says, not that they prioritize, but they appreciate jobs or applications that have Māori, Pacifica, and all that jazz, like all the beautiful things that we want to see, you know, at the forefront.
Culturally driven.
But then I ask you the question, as someone who is in the scene, actively watching the moves and everything, like, is it being represented as it should?
I honestly think that, like, as they call it, POC, or people of colour, have actually had, that's a new term that I just learnt a few days ago. Actually, I was like, what the hell is a POC? And I looked up and it was like, people of colour. I'm like, oh, of course. Like, POC, yeah. Wow. So I think definitely, I mean, especially with channels now like Māori TV, and then there's Te Reo channel too. I don't know how different they are from each other. I think Te Reo is like strictly Māori language, where Māori like cuts in between Pākehā and Māori. But, you know, with those kind of things, it's giving a lot of Māori actors a chance to get into the film industry, not only in front of the camera, but to work behind the scenes. You know, and Johnson, you know, who worked on Aotearoa, I've actually auditioned for one role in Aotearoa, and it was actually a pretty cool role, and I really wish I got it. So it was like meant to be this crack dealer, and he snorts, I think he like snorted some crack or something, and then he's like, whoa, and then like he just blacks out, and like two of the characters are like, is he dead? Like, you know, and I thought that would be a cool character, but they were like, you know, oh, we'd rather prefer Pākehā to play this role. And I was like, oh, nah, come on, bruv. Like,
come on, where's the stereotypes now?
I want this role. I want this role.
Would you method act that?
No. Oh my goodness. Method acting. But at the end of the day, because it's run on such a tight budget, I think a lot of the people that are on Aotearoa are quite independent. Would I mean, as someone that's worked on that, would you agree that some of them are independent? Or maybe work for smaller agencies? Because I work for, I don't want to name my agency, I don't know what the ramifications to that is, but they're quite prolific, like at least in the top 3 talent agents in New Zealand. And they kind of frown upon you doing independent stuff, like, oh well, if it's say like for a TV commercial and it's commercial work, they really want you to approach them about it and say like, hey, is this a fair rate? And I totally get it, because at the end of the day, like, we do have an industry to protect, and if these people can go out, make TV commercials and get these like kind of actors that are at a certain level and pay them for less than industry rates, then it doesn't help the industry at all. So, well,
the couple actors, main cast members on Aotearoa that I've spoken to, they have their own sort of thing with TikTok, you know, to keep themselves busy.
Yeah.
And you know, when I heard from that, that's how they do on their downtime, bro. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, TikTok is a brilliant way to keep. I mean, even through lockdown, I noticed a lot of Kiwi actors were starting up TikToks. You know, whether it's to pass the time or just to kind of test the waters and see what they could do there. And yeah, so I mean, people give TikTok and that a lot of flack, but I think it's a brilliant platform as a creative and as a performer, especially when you play out scenarios like real Kiwis scenarios and all that kind of stuff, which is usually the stuff that takes off. Yeah, there's the dances, but
there's heaps of things you can. Yeah, I agree. It gets a lot of flack, but there's a lot of things you can have fun with on the platform. Like for me, as an actor and stuff like that, there's channels or pages on TikTok. They have scripts where you can read it out as an actor.
Yeah.
And then record yourself doing it. You can record yourself doing the sort of acting motions, and then even they have lip sync where you can just focus on how you would react in your body, you know, with the camera, because you know, for screen you sort of act more natural, whereas stage you act like out.
Yeah, so
project.
That was actually funny enough you mentioned that, because that was one of the things I used to do when I first got into acting was especially coming from pro wrestling. So it's like you start off up here and they had to work me down. So it was like I'd come in and be like, hey! And they're like, whoa, like, I mean, that's cool, but that's theater acting. I'm like, oh, okay, that's just the pro wrestler in me. And they're like, yeah, so just bring it down, like just be like how you would in a normal conversation. And so for a lot of actors, it's all about working their way up to a certain emotion, but for me it was like working down to a certain emotion.
Do you have any preference? Do you go like, are you open for film, TV, theater?
I'm more of a film and TV guy personally. I mean, I have full respect for theater. I mean, in my opinion, I came from a theater background with the pro wrestling, so you know that was for me the right kind of theater for me to work in. I'm not saying that I'd never be open to doing a theatre show. It's just you've got to put a lot of time and effort into it with rehearsals and it's just constant rehearsing. And I like the kind of with film, like you can just show up on a day, act it out, and then you know that scene's done. Yeah. So
man, when you send me your bio, you talked a little bit about your projects as a filmmaker, as an actor, as a writer, but I would say that maybe 85% of your bio was focusing on the journey.
Yeah, man.
On the man's journey.
Yeah.
On the ups and downs.
Yeah.
On the struggles.
Yeah.
On the ability, I call it an ability to speak from your heart, to share with people the lows, because everybody loves sharing
the highs.
The highs.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look at this great achievement, and it's like, yep, that's awesome. But I think with any great story, you know, there has to be some form of adversity or some kind of conflict, and you know, that was it for me. You know, it's like I possibly could have been in a whole different place, probably in a better place in the film industry than where I'm at now. But the problem was, you know, I was quite I'm not going to lie, I was a bit of a creature of habit. You know, I like to get on the piss and maybe indulge in a few substances, you know, and all that kind of stuff, which is like, it's not a bragging right to me, that kind of stuff, but it's definitely cool to make people aware of, you know, it's like, making them understand that it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, like that I did have to go through that conflict. And I'd say that for some of my life story, it's been quite rock and roll.
How old are you, bro?
So I'm 34.
You're 34?
I'm 35 on Sunday.
Hey, my man.
So yeah. So I'm going to be having the screening, and then afterwards we're going to be having a bit of a kai and a hangi with the family. So yeah, but it was, honestly, like, I had gone through a lot of challenges, and I mean, one of the biggest things, like I said, was, you know, overcoming rejection, but also just kind of like, I had my priorities in the wrong place, man, as well, for a long time. So like, where I should have been grinding and working hard and you know, going to the gym and all that kind of stuff, instead I was out there, you know, partying, you know, trying to get poo-tang and you know, chasing that. That was like, you know, for me that was
when you look back now that you're 34 and you can speak with a bit more like authority, you know, like of understanding your struggles. When you look back, when did you feel like things started to go downhill, that you lost track of where it was going?
I mean, there was quite a lot, but I felt like every time I was slipping from my main goals was when I was in a bloody relationship, dare I say it, you know, because I'd be like just kind of, I wouldn't say focused on the relationship, but it almost became like another thing for me to think about and an important thing, because it was like, it wasn't just ambition or something that I, you know, it wasn't it was, in other words, it was another human that, you know, was in my life, and all humans in my life, and you know, big man thing, bruv. But yeah, you know, and so, you know, I was quite an easily distracted guy, and not only that, my will to go out and party and have a good time as well. So you throw that on top of it, and then trying to chase your dreams and aspirations, which required a lot of hard work. But I feel like those struggles is definitely the very thing that has helped me in my performances, and it's helped me to drive me to achieve what I've achieved now. And like, honestly, like within the last year and a half, that's when everything really turned around for me. So last year, you know, I decided that I'm going to go sober. I'm going to start going to the gym. The gym was the biggest life changer for me. Like I've got to go to the gym minimum 3 times a week. If I don't, I'm going to be pretty like, I really beat myself up over it. And sometimes it's like, dude, like I can be so busy. Like I'd have like a 16-hour day or something. So it's like, but it's like doing physical work in the trades and stuff, and then feeling bummed out because I didn't go to the gym, even though I've been lifting heavy shit all day, or you know, really grinding at work. So for me, one of the biggest saving graces has been, you know, cutting back on, you know, I don't really drink anymore. Like I went sober for a long time, and even now, every now and then, like I'll have a drink on a special occasion, and you know, other things, you know, I don't do very, you know, I'm not really into that kind of scene anymore. Yeah.
What was the hardest thing about letting go of substances, of drugs? What were you into? What were you using at the time?
I mean, the biggest one is, of course, the old kakariki, but...
what is kakariki?
Oh, green, the green.
Kakariki? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, kakariki.
Kakariki, there you go.
So,
Take
I mean,
notes.
the green was the biggest one, but, like, I used to like taking certain pills, so, you know, it'd be like, you know, tremadols. Like, I was such a sucker for tremadols, man. Valiums.
Pharmaceutical shit.
Yeah, like like, yeah, icky stuff, you know. And it's like, man, you know. And then for a little bit, it was like LSD. I was really into that, and I probably got a little bit carried away sometimes. And yeah, but nowadays I'm just like, yeah, it's not really.
What were
my
your
thing.
steps coming out of those? Because those are kind of, you know, tough drugs and stuff like.
Yeah.
So what were those steps that you made? Slow steps. It doesn't have to be big, but what were they?
Not having it and not being able to get it was really, there was no other option but to stop, you know. It's like, yeah, I'd like had this supplier, and then that stopped, and I was like, well, you know, and so I had to go through the process of coming off it, and like, oh, do I subsidize it with something else, or, you know, do I start drinking more, or whatnot? So yeah, by like last year, you know, I was doing a bit of this and a bit of that, and I just decided, you know, I think it was mainly based around like the end of my last relationship, and I was like, you know what, screw this. Like, most people, when that shit goes down, they drink more, they take more, and they start making more stupid decisions. And I decided to go the opposite way, which was to like, you know, which was to go sober, start looking after my body.
How hard is it to get drugs in Aotearoa? To find?
Jeez.
How easy?
How easy?
I mean, it's pretty easy. Like, I mean, there were certain apps that you could use at the time.
Oh,
so, like,
what?
as I was saying, like, Discord was one way that you could get
Wow.
anything that you wanted, especially during that first lockdown. And if you were invited to certain rooms, chat rooms, then you could, you know, anything you wanted was right there. You could have whatever you like. Like, literally, it was just like, oh. It was like, oh my goodness, like, who's watching this right now, you know? And so that was one way of, like, you know, especially in lockdown, like, getting through it. It was like, oh, well, I can get all this stuff. Like, you know, I've got all this money. I can't go out and spend it. So I might as well, you know, do a sneaky driving trip and go pick it up. And, yeah. But I think it's more about the people you're around, man. Like you're seen more than anything. So if you say you're a yuppie and you work up in a corporate office, you know, getting they say getting the drugs is easy, but it's like it's actually not, because you have to meet up with some particular types of people in order to get it. But it's the stuff is out there, man. And yes, it depends what you want. It can be easy. I've heard a lot that meth is really easy to get nowadays. It was never really my thing, man, and I'm glad that it was never really my thing. But apparently meth is a lot easier to get now than marijuana, and I just find that rather disgusting. That vile, horrible drug is so much more accessible, and because I'm from Gisborne originally, and Gisborne became like the meth capital of New Zealand, where it got to a point where they were selling it, even in places like Aotearoa, they were selling it cheaper than marijuana, just because there was more of it. It's shocking, absolutely shocking. So I haven't heard much on what's going on with those statistics, but I'd like to think they're going down, because I want that shit off the streets, man. I've seen it ruin a lot of people, the old meth.
Do you guys think that it's when you bring legislation, when you bring the conversation to the table, that's when things start to move? Or you guys think that banning, prohibiting, making illegal is the way to go?
Well,
which doesn't seem to be working.
It doesn't. That's the problem. Prohibition doesn't seem to work. I mean, it goes back to the prohibition in America with, you know, no alcohol, and look how well that worked. It just made the criminals more powerful. And it's the same thing with drugs now. Like we can't prohibit it. Well, if you're the government, you can.
And people
on paper, you can.
People tend to do things that, you know, when someone tells them not to do something, they tend to do the opposite thing and then want to do it more.
It's like, you know, especially if you're a bit of a rage against the machine kind of person, and you're like, psh, you know, fuck you, I'm gonna do what you tell me, bro.
Yeah.
And
Who
then
you to tell me?
Yeah, you don't tell me what I can and
Which
can't
is
put in my
funny,
body.
isn't it? Because those guys would actually praise the opposite.
Yeah.
The ones putting themselves out there saying, let's bring the conversation to the table. They're asking for for talks.
Yeah.
But when you are when you're young and you don't know what's going on, you rebel.
Yeah.
And then you see that it's not allowed. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah. Well, you watch me, you know, and that's a pretty scary reality. That, you know, that people like, I know so many gearheads, man, and I'll tell you what, in the last maybe year and a half, I met a whole group of people that are like just all on the gear, and I'm like, yo, like, I mean, you guys are cool, but man, like, ease up, like, you know, like.
We're talking about substances, bro, but for me, alcohol is still at the top, eh?
Alcohol is by far the demon king when it comes to substances, man. Like, closely followed by meth, and yeah, alcohol is just. And I think because there's such an abundance of it, it's weird. Like it's hard to say. Like, is it because it's accessible and it's everywhere, or is it just because of the feeling it gives a consumer? Like it's, yeah, for me, I don't know whether it's the availability of it or the way it makes people feel. And I know because I've come across, you know, moments when I've been absolutely blotted and I've made a absolute dick of myself. This happened more than one occasion, bro.
What do you guys think about AA and rehab? Like people sort of promoting that sort of thing when people look like they're on that sort of drugs, or diving down into that. I think that drug abyss.
I think, I think if it helps people, why not? You know, why not have every kind of therapy that you can have available at all? Yeah, you know, like why not have like your AAs or even your like kind of church groups? You know, like with was it Destiny Church? They've got the Two Tangata movement, which is of course they take in a lot of former gang members, and you know a lot of people like, oh, Brian Tamaki's trying to start a gang, and it's like, well, you know. Maybe, but who knows? But from what I can see, these are some badass dudes, man, that have done some hard time and have gone through some hard places in their life, and they still live by that code. So for them to go into an office or some like, some office with some clean, polished therapist that looks like they've never had a hard day in their life, that probably takes your money and goes snorts lines on the weekend with their mates, that to them is not going to work. Like talking to someone is not going to work. Like they have to still have some kind of brotherhood. So there's still that kind of gang culture, but it's not in like a negative light. It's like now they're like all sober, they're off the drugs, they're off the alcohol, they're out of prison, they're trying to sort out their lives and go straight and, get jobs and actually be good, loving and nurturing fathers. And I'm all for it, so.
I believe when they started with AA, the guy was actually tapping into psychedelics studies.
Yes, yeah.
There's something that goes along those lines. But
something within psilocybins, I think they call it. With the whole microdosing and all that to prevent depression,
but
anxiety.
then America had the whole war on drugs, and that change turned, and
they shot themselves in the foot with it.
As Vice, rest in peace, Vice used to say, drugs won the war on drugs. Clearly, right? I think, Johnson, that I agree with Fred that any help is good help when you are in those situations. But if we don't do structural changes, systematic changes, if we don't regulate what's going on,
actually
the
stopping
access and the
people
education, and it doesn't matter. You can have AAs for the whole planet, and it's not gonna stop people from getting into that. So, for me, in a way, again, I agree that it's important. But when you have a sif and you put against the sun is still coming on your face. So like you're getting someone out of something, but like what tools are you using? And I'm not here to bash on religion because my parents are religious, my family is religious, and I'm all good with that. But like, what is the trade-off? What is the interest of the people from some churches? I'm not saying that all the churches are bad, but we know that there's a lot of business going on there as well. So
there is, but even with the legalization of drugs, like in Portugal, right? All the profits that come from because all drugs are legal in Portugal or something like that. But all that money that they earn from the profit of drugs is going into funding rehabilitation and doctors and all that kind of stuff to rehabilitate the drug users in the first place. And I'm like, so are you kind of like helping the situation with this, or are you just creating this kind of cycle where take the drug and don't worry, we have the solution as well.
Hamster wheel.
It's a hamster.
Do you think it's a process though that it takes time? So
to become addicted, or
so when a country does that, they, in my view, they have to provide the rehab
absolutely
as well, because if you're offering but if you're saying that you can use those substances, that a big part of the population is not prepared to use them. So in my view, the way that I see this is just like a way of preparing for the future. So the more people understand that it's legal, then the young kids, maybe they're not as keen, because then you're not a rebel, you're just a sick person. So that's why I believe in legalizing all the substances, because when you're not tough anymore, when you're not cool, you're sick.
You take the power
and then
out
you
of
don't
it.
want to be sick. So in my view, it makes sense that the investment goes back into helping those people, because then in maybe 2 or 3 generations that number will drop. I think it's already dropping.
Is this over in Portugal?
Yeah, in Uruguay as well.
Yeah, Uruguay. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, sorry. Maybe
you want the mushrooms,
I
bro?
want those mushrooms,
I can see it,
man. Sorry. Maybe I got the country wrong, but it was like Portugal or Uruguay. Uruguay. That sounds more like.
And Uruguay
my
suffers a bit more because South America.
It's a South America.
Big colonization. Going
big
on.
Drug industry.
Big industry. Violence. So. Big move for Uruguay, big balls for them to do that in a continent like South America, man.
And I mean, it's just, for them, I mean, it probably does wonders for the economy. I know that the South American economy is not the best in the world. You know, really,
Corruption is bad.
it's really corrupt over there, and oh geez, I hope I can go to South America safely now. Jeez,
Let me know when you're going,
They'll
man.
be like, hey, I think I remember you from that Altbays podcast talking about how South America is economically crap and
No-fly list.
Yeah, I'm on the no-fly.
Man, I love this chat, by the way. This is
Yeah.
good. Thank you guys for being so open and keen to talk about this taboos conversation. For
All
me,
about
if it's a
Rip the
taboo,
stigma off.
if
Yeah.
it's a taboo, it's another reason to be talking about it. I want to tap on into masculinity because
Yeah.
do you have children?
I do have children.
Sorry, is it okay to ask
Yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely.
Cool, thank you.
I mean, if you're on my social media, like honestly, if it's not a photo of me and what I'm doing, it's like a picture of my daughter. I absolutely adore my daughter. She's my world. Hey, my darling, love you. Mwah. Yeah.
After talking about all the substances,
all
hello,
the
my
substances.
Don't
Hey,
take drugs,
baby.
kids.
Yeah. Don't do that stuff, my darling. Yeah, but I like absolutely adore my daughter.
So
And
what I wanted to ask now that yes, you're right, you have a daughter. Like having a daughter, like did that help? Did that make things more confusing for you? Like how is the motivation when you are
Yeah.
doing his stuff and then? Because I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm glad I have children because like now I want to be the best version of myself." But again, you're looking at the ones who are doing good. There's a
Yeah.
lot of the ones who are not doing good, who are struggling.
who were already in a good
Oh my
place when they had
God.
kids, you
Yes.
know, compared to, and for me, I was not prepared. Bro, I'll tell you a funny story. So when I found out I was going to be a dad, my baby mama at the time, she texted me, and it was real funny because it was like, oh, when was it? 2016. Yeah, that's right. So me and my mates, you know, got drunk as it was like a Wednesday night or something, and we're like drunk as, and Pokemon Go had just come out, and so we're going out to go and have a game of Pokemon Go. We're like, yeah, because my mate just brought a new phone because his old phone couldn't download it, so he got a new phone, so he's excited, and we're like, yeah, like got like our bags full of beers and that. We're about to go stroll around Wellington just playing Pokemon Go, and as soon as we get to the door, I get this like, no, sorry, it was a phone call. And I was like, oh, hey, babe, what's up? And she's like, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, and I just had this feeling. I was like, oh, if it is what I think it is, like,
It's a child or
is
chlamydia.
it really? Yeah, it's either going to be child or I got chlamydia, bro. Nah. But literally, chlamydia,
Use
mate.
protection, kids.
Yeah. And as soon as I get to the fucking door, get this phone call, and I'm like, hey babe, what's up? And it's like, hey, so I'm pregnant. And I was just like, if my mates like just noticed I went quiet, I wouldn't move, and they're like, bro, what's wrong? And I was just turned around to them, I was like, I'm gonna be a dad. And they're like, whoa. I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh well, still got 9 months, let's go play Pokemon, like, let's get wasted.
You got a new Pokemon.
Yeah.
9
So-
months anyway, right? So
and
it's all good.
I recently installed the game again, just because like Frankie loves it, so I installed it on my phone, and there's one Pokemon on there that I renamed as Frankie, and I named that Pokemon on the day that I found out that you know we were gonna have her. So it's like this is such a sentimental Pokemon, and if anything happened to it, I'd be like just like absolutely like fuck, you know. It's like 20, and it's got the date that I called it as well, which is the date that I found out I was going to be a father. So it's
Man.
like there's some sentimental value to all those kind of weird things. But yeah,
I wanted to ask about two things.
Yeah.
Your the way that you started to deal with things after you realized you were a father, and masculinity,
yeah, absolutely.
being the man, being the father, being the
Yeah.
guy out there.
Yeah, it took me a long time to really come into my masculine core and actually understand that I needed to become not just a dad, but I had to be a protector, I had to be a provider, I had to be a leader. And, you know, and for me to do those things meant that I was going to become the best version of myself that I could be. Unfortunately, I didn't really learn that lesson until like she was like 4.5, you know, maybe 5, you know. When she turned 5, I was like, you know, I've got to get my shit together now. Like it's been 5 years. I'm just floating around through life. Like I know what I want to do, but I'm not approaching it in a way that I could be. And it was because I really felt like I was indoctrinated by this kind of woke agenda where, you know, you were getting people going, oh, you know, it's good to be an emotional guy and it's good to be in your feelings and you know, it's okay to be weak and all that. And it's like, look, as men, we can have our vulnerable moments, absolutely. But I think one of the best things that I've learned over the last year or so is like stoicism is this like really important, understanding who you should talk to about these kind of things. Like if you are going through a hard time, like to find your brotherhood and find that crew that's tight, that you can easily open up to and go, hey man, like I'm going through this shit. Do you have any idea? And as much as I do have really good friends, I never really had that kind of brotherhood, you know, where I felt like I could reach out to a friend and say, hey, I'm not doing real good. And it's not a diss on the friends that I got now. It's just maybe it's something that's inside of me, but I always felt like I was bothering people if I had something wrong or, you know, I needed to express something. And I think, I mean, like I said, the last year is like a real transformation, man. Like if you met me a year ago, maybe over a year ago, I was a whole different person. Like I was kind of like this hippie dude with like long, scraggly hair. And I was like, you know, I was still kind of like kept myself polished in that, but I was like, I know I could do better. And then, I moved to Auckland in August last year. And I think that's where a lot of things changed. And that's where I started kind of getting more involved in my masculine core, and dare I say it, but I started like listening to a lot of guys. Like, I mean, I was always listening to Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson, but I had discovered like David Goggins, and dare I say it, even the elephant in the room, the one name that's probably going to set a lot of people off is Andrew Tate, man. And
Get out.
Yeah, exactly. Get out. What the hell? Hey, you're going to get cancelled now. I'm going to get cancelled. We'll all get cancelled together. But
So cool. Interesting. Okay. So for glasses back, it's very hard to give shit to people like 100% for everything that they say, right? There's a clip that we did from a couple of weeks ago that I say that I'm like, we're not fans of putting people in the corner. If you don't listen to people, you're not going to know.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm curious. Now you made me curious. What on Andrew Tate called your attention?
It's like of all those names, like Andrew Tate.
No, we can talk about all of them for sure.
I mean, he's the most talked about guy.
In the
controversial,
world.
I would say.
Well,
right?
controversial, but he was the most Googled man on earth over Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin.
That doesn't make him
any better or any worse.
Like, yeah. So that's what I'm asking. Like, what was the
appeal? I think so. Originally, when I first kind of came across the guy, I thought, who the fuck is this guy saying this shit? And then I started to look in a bit deeper, and like he started really talking about like, you know, fighting the system. And it's like he was like, look, understand this, like the system does not necessarily want you to succeed. The system wants you to play by the rules, and the rules are they stay at the top and you stay where you're at. You know, there are ways to get out of it. And so, you know, I liked his approach to like challenging the system, also like becoming the best version of yourself. And I think him and Jordan Peterson to me really articulate that well with the whole masculinity, and actually understand, like making people understand, like, look, masculinity isn't out to harm people. Just because you're a masculine man does not mean that, not saying that I'm a masculine man myself, but I think I'm more in my masculine core now than I've ever been. It's all about protecting, you know, like when shit goes down right in the neighborhood, like you want some strong masculine dudes to come along and stop and stop the situation. Like, yeah, if there's some woman out there that can do it as well, ka pai, like, but ideally you want some big strong dudes to neutralize the situation. And you know, even if you're, you know, building a house or something, you know, most of the time it's all, you know, the construction industry, the trades are all mostly predominantly male, and it's because, you know, genetically we're built bigger and stronger, and we're designed to do, you know, those kind of things. But women can do it too, which is awesome, because like I work in the trades, and nowadays I'm seeing a lot more women in the trades, which is really cool. It's actually really cool, and it shows that that industry has changed a lot. and we're more open and acceptant, and you know there's none of this like sleazy like catcalling and all that. See, nowadays if you get caught catcalling, you like instantly get fired, like you're straight off the job, whether it's to another worker or to a member of public, especially public.
I was wondering, can you dive deeper, more specifically, into your masculine core? What is that to you?
So I think it's my masculine core. Like for me, I feel like when I wasn't, I'd be a lot more like uncertain of what I'm going to say, and I was always thinking like being too afraid of the repercussions of some of the things that I say. Whereas now it's like, okay, I'm going to say it. Maybe someone will come along and challenge me about it, and that's fine. I'm willing to have that conversation with them. So that's one of them. Another thing as well is like going to the gym, looking after my body. For me, that fits into my masculine core, which of course, because I'm kind of pursuing that side of things inside with me, I've found myself to be a far more productive man. You know, I'm always busy. So say if I'm working my 9 to 5 on construction site, on my way home, say I catch the bus or the train home, in that time, I'm on my phone, I'm doing emails, I'm making contacts with people that can help with film production or any other kind of project. So I'm always busy working, and like, I never stop now. Like on average, I probably sleep about 5 to 4 hours a night. Yeah, it's like, what, 5 to 4 hours? Maybe even less than that sometimes. Most average is like probably even 3 hours, man. I'll go to sleep at like 2 o'clock in the morning and then get up at 5 o'clock for a 7 a.m. start. And that's just...
That sounds like a woke culture, you know, like...
Woke culture.
Yeah, very... That's some would say that is very woke. But yeah, so yeah, I'm always on the move, man, and I'm always busy doing something. Even if it seems like I'm not, like even on my days off, Saturday, Sunday, I'm doing some script work, or yeah, I'm like trying to tee up a workshop, or you know, figuring out my moves for my next projects, or even going to auditions, things like that. So that's been another thing that's helped me kind of fit into like for me to pursue more of my masculine core has helped me to use my time a lot more wisely, and yeah, understanding that, you know, as a man, you know, you always got to be grinding, and you always got to be working towards something. So it's completely changed my life as to how I live.
You said, you mentioned only Andrew Tate of all the names that you mentioned before, and there's an interesting thing about the guys you mentioned. Like I listen to some of them to an extent because I like to be aware of what's going on. Yeah. Like, you know, some people, I feel like I don't have to agree or disagree.
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful thing that I just discovered recently in my life. Kids, listen to this.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree or disagree all the time.
Yeah.
You just don't. You can listen, you know, and see what you think. So what gets me about these guys is not even criticism. It's just like, there's a lot of talk about tapping into your masculine side, but like not many of them talk about tapping on your feminine side, which is all part of us.
Yeah.
All like we all have that connection with your mother,
absolutely.
The connection with your father, the connection with your wife,
especially
your daughter.
If you're a solo father, that's a good example of having to fit some certain feminine roles.
And that's why I think there's so much controversy, and there's why there's so many women not too fond of those guys. Because there's an idea of like, oh, you know, we're here, we're doing the thing, protective. And like, are we back in the cave times that like we need the man go, like it's, for me, it feels like much more collaborative nowadays with a society that actually, I agree with you, the system is oppressing us, man. System is putting us down, like stay cool, man. You know, the billionaires, like, what does it mean, the word billionaire? Is that even possible that someone has a billion?
You're going to get a government subsidy, right. You know, and it's like...
So I see that much more as a moment of like, hey, can we come together?
Yeah.
For me, on those fellas like Andrew Tate, you know, first off, I admire how he came from like a poor background, and then he went into kickboxing because I like combat sports itself. Yeah. But to me, like you said, you know, you don't have to disagree or agree. Yeah. And he's like one of those fellas. I'm like, you know, you do that, it's mean for you. It's not my cup of tea.
He causes critical thinking.
The thing we're touching on. Well, there's two things first. First, the feminine side. I guess maybe if I was to identify with that sort of thing, it's the thing that I pick out, which he calls ladies bitches. And so like so for me,
Bitches
because
and hoes.
yeah, hoes
The
and
B&H.
you know, and for me, I have like I have sisters and I have a mother,
Yeah, of course.
and my like person I look up to most is my grandmother, my nan.
Yeah.
And you know, her loss to me, I always carry. I like to say I live for the living, but it's because she's one of those ones who passed on that I've held on to.
Yeah.
And so when people are like that, are like, you know, calling ladies bitches, because I would never call a lady a bitch, but I'll call people who act like bitches. That's why, you know.
Yeah, hard out.
But
I'm the same. It's not a general thing to call a woman like, oh yeah, bitches. What, like
it's
bitches
just not my
or
cup of
women?
tea. I don't,
bitch,
yeah.
You know, I don't condone anything like that at all.
I'm not going to clown on the guy for, you know, because he worked hard. He got us money.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, this is not my cup of tea.
Bugatti, my Bugatti.
Yeah. What
Bugatti.
color is your Bugatti?
Yeah.
Do you
Smoking
drink
cigars,
the sparkling water? You know.
wearing glasses inside.
Yeah, hard. Yeah, it's like I like I said, I don't agree with everything that he says. It's like, you know, my favorite musicians, I don't like every song that my favorite musician, you know, makes. I don't like every film that my favorite actors or directors make or are in.
But it's the moments they create.
Yeah.
You know, Andrew Tate creates a moment where you work as a guy, you work on your body, you work on your mental. Jordan Peterson, the same thing. You know.
There's actually a beautiful quote that I want to mention before it slips my mind that Jordan Peterson says, and he goes, if you're not willing to, if you're not open to, I think it's like, if you're not willing to possibly offend someone, then how can you become capable of critical thinking? And I was like, yeah, no, that's true, because, you know, not everyone knows everyone's backgrounds, not everyone, you know, understands other people, and it's our job as humans to kind of educate each other to become better people. Like, you know, no one person is an island, like no man is an island, you know. And even people like Tate and Jordan Peterson, Goggins and all that are like, you need a team, a strong team with you. You need your A team, you know, you need your first 15, or well, not 15, but, you know, even if it's just 2 people, they have to be the tightest. Like, you know, they're like the people that if you had to choose 2 people you would live with for the rest of your life, who would you live with? And you know, it's that kind of thing. So I like the idea that they encourage like brotherhood, but also like encouraging the idea of like, you know, Jordan Peterson talks about men being dangerous, you know. It's like a good man is a dangerous man, and I totally agree with that sentiment, you know. And just because you're a dangerous man doesn't mean you're a reckless person that goes out beating up people randomly or shooting people up. They are considered weak men, and they're weak, you know. They've been damaged, you know. They're not in their right mind. Where a man that is capable of being dangerous, so say for example Israel Adesanya, we all know that in general he's a good person, right? Like, you just see him on TV and that, his interviews and just how he talks to people and all that. He's a good man, but you know that if you ever got on his wrong side, he'd kick your damn head off. And I think that's what contributes to a lot of people respecting him, is his ability to be like a good person to approach, but also knowing that he's fully equipped to destroy anyone at any given time.
Do you guys feel like that's necessary because of the chaos that we live in, or is just a human thing that is important to have some sort of security? Because a lot of people will have a gun.
Yeah. I think
and some people will actually buff up, you know, like be ready for a conflict, even if, as you said, even if it doesn't happen. Do you think that we can blame that on a whole societal condition, or is just our human nature of being in competition, of being, you know,
so
clashing?
Are you trying to say that
because when you say dangerous, like, when you say danger, it feels
dangerous
like
is a
it
very,
feels like you're ready for something.
It's a prejudice word
that can go wrong, and you might as well be ready.
Yeah.
And then my question is like,
be...
do you think like this is something that we should be ready because of the world that we live in and the way that things are? There's dangers on every corner, or like even if
I think it's always been that way, man. When you think about it throughout history, like, you know, whether you're a professional fighter or you're a really wealthy, like even a wealthy person, it's like can still be considered dangerous because they can always pay someone off to
but also like someone who has nothing, they have nothing to lose, so they'll throw everything at it.
Yeah.
Which touching on, like, I think it's human nature, because for me, growing up around a lot of alcoholism and then people fighting as well, it's made me scared a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, taking up martial arts was security.
Hard
for
out.
when something happens, I'm able to not like knock everybody out, but like take care of the situation.
But you can neutralize the
and
situation and get the hell out of there.
Control the situation.
Yeah.
You know, because you can call me Captain Jack Sparrow because I fight to run away.
Yeah. Hard out.
And
why would you? Well, why would you? Yeah, it's like you don't know. Like, say if someone was to test you out in the club, right, and you deck them, why would someone stick around and be like, you know, yeah, that's right, I just KO'd you? Because you don't know, you might have decked that person. There's like 20 people that are about to come after you, you know. So why would you deck him and stick around? It's like, deck him to neutralize the situation and get the hell out of there, because you don't know who that person's with. You don't know how dangerous the other people are. So you got to get, So
or even de-escalating the situation before, like, because you're training in martial arts, you sort of recognize that situation, and then you de-escalate it.
Yeah.
Whether you take yourself out of that situation, or you see if you can talk out of it, and then if you know, hopefully it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, when someone swings, you're able to, you know, de-escalate the situation.
Boom!
That's just karate chop to the neck.
Like counter straight away. Like,
Show your kid straight up the middle.
Straight up, man. So that's what I kind of like when I heard Jordan Peterson saying that line. Like, I was just so like, wow, you're right, you know, because I always felt like I kind of held a lot of my full power back, you know. Even if I was sparring with someone, I always felt like I was really holding back, which is the idea of like sparring, you know. It's not to go in there hundy and bloody knock out the other person.
It's not a real fight.
It's not a real fight. Like
fight.
it's you're trying to work out your skill, which is also a beautiful thing in itself, is learning to control yourself, is learning to get jabbed in the face and know that it's not out of anything malicious or anything. It's just a part of the game, and you just got to keep playing within those boundaries of sparring.
And how to react to it. Like, get a jab in the face, you're not just going to be like you're going to be able to, either you see the jab coming, then you counter it, or you see the jab coming, you can take it and then be ready, be ready
with
stance,
something else,
instead of overreact to the little jab, the jab or the punch.
You hit me in the face. It's like,
get all emotional and stuff. You know, you can handle it.
And those are the people that, like, you know, we all a lot of people talk about, you know, those are the ones that are capable of being, you know, men that are overly emotional and stuff and don't know how to control their emotions are the ones that go around shooting up schools. They're the ones that go around causing all these vile acts towards people, especially women in general and children, you know. They are the ones that are really causing a lot of harm to society. And for, like, say, and especially a lot of people in the woke agenda are like, oh, men, it's okay to be weak and it's okay to be vulnerable. It's like, actually, it's not okay, but it's also okay to ask for help. As there's this other saying, and it's probably going to stir up because a good friend of mine uses it, so this is no shade at him, but there's this saying, it's okay to not be okay. And in my opinion, it's like, no, it's just absolutely not okay to not be okay. Like, but it is okay to ask for help. So that's where I come in on that. But yeah, it's like, you know, when someone goes, it's okay to not be okay, it's like, no, it's not. It's like, there's no okay about not being okay. But
don't you think that some people, and especially in some stages in life, you just don't have the tools?
Absolutely. And you know,
so imagine coming to for that person and say, it's not okay, man up.
Well, a lot of men and you know, a lot of young males in modern society now are raised by solo mums. That's the biggest thing ever. Like, most fellas, you go to a prison, you ask them, oh, were your parents together? Like, is your mum and dad together, or solo mum? And most of them will go solo mum or in foster care or something. Like, it's something dysfunctional. It's never like, no, I had a loving mum and dad, you know. They used to take me to rugby on Saturday, and, you know, I had 3 square meals a day, and, you know, dad's a lawyer and mum would stay home and, you know, do all the house duties, and she would raise and nurture me. So, you know, that's what's creating, I think, a lot of these problems, and even further on in society, you know, you're getting egged on by these particular groups that are like, oh, don't have families, or like, instead of saying, you know, work out your issues in your relationships, just like leave that person in because you'll get better, and then they go out there into the big wild world again and realize that there was never anything better in the first place, and they start finding themselves in all these toxic loops where they're kind of or living these like having these short-term relationships. And
Could that be because they're looking for something outside that they should be looking within?
it's because they're looking for traditionally masculine men, and men are looking for traditionally feminine women. That's it, man. That's straight up it. And we're in society, we're getting taught that we can defy those traditional roles and become something more or something else. And it's like, yeah, perhaps we can. But at the end of the day, we are still biological human beings, and we were born to fulfill certain roles, whether we like it or not. And that's what I had to come to terms with. It's like, I have a role to fulfill. I can't keep going around playing fucking Pokemon Go and getting pissed on a Wednesday. I can't keep smoking up and taking drugs in my spare time. I got work to do because I've got a beautiful daughter and I don't even have her full time. So already, as horrible as that is for me, I have the freedom, and I say that very like, not like the freedom, but I have the freedom to become the best version of myself and build myself up to a level where I can be the fucking man in my daughter's eyes. So that's how I've taken my time now. Instead of going out and having fun or going out dating or whatever, all I'm doing now is working. And for me, it's working. But I also know that I'm becoming, even when I'm with my daughter now, like we just click, like we're best friends, man.
It's good to have some fun as well, bro.
It is good to have some fun, absolutely. But I would rather spend my time having fun with my kid than going out and partying with people. Like if I get invited to someone's birthday, like I'll still go, absolutely. Like I'm still like a social person to an extent, but I don't, like every Saturday I don't have to go out to the pub, or I don't have to catch up with all my mates every weekend. You know, I'll just work my ass off, and then
Priorities.
that's it, man. Prioritizing what is important, and then, you know, having, you know, working my ass off so I can have that bit of time to spend with my kid and nurture her with what little time that I have with her, and trying to, you know, just be the best father that I can be for her.
And I would also argue, like, that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
But I also would argue as teenagers or as kids, they are people, they are human, you know, human beings that need that sort of nurturing for role models or people who are further along in their journey to look towards. But I also would argue, like, never stop, don't stop evolving, you know.
Absolutely.
Because if you keep evolving, then you'll stay young, and if you're young, then you'll be able to help your daughter grow with something. To her, it'll be quite new, and you know, new things like TikTok wasn't here, you know, before it was Musical.ly, and before that it was Vine. And so, like, evolving with those sort of times, those changes in life, like, I'm sure there'll be something different to TikTok in the future.
Oh yeah.
And so
for
having
sure.
to cater to her and her needs, and like evolving with her, so you're not like that parent that you're like, back in my day, you know, I did this.
Back in my day,
purist, you know,
or really out of touch as well, like an out of touch parent. You know, like I love the fact that my daughter's still at the age where she loves unicorns. Like, she's not as much into unicorns now, but I love that stuff about my daughter. Like, she'd wear her fairy dress with the butterfly wings and all that stuff. I just want her to be happy, bro. That's all I want for my daughter, is just her to have the happiest and most fun life that she can have, until she grows up one day and she meets a man that's going to just sweep her off her feet, who I would like to think would be a better man than I am. But I want to get to that point where I'll be like, that's impossible.
What if your daughter is lesbian?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey, like, yeah,
swing both
I've
ways
never,
before you cross the road.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm not against that at all. And I mean, cool if she would like to be a lesbian, but personally, I would love to have some muckles. So, you know, and
Adoption, man.
yeah, no, drop adoption, you know, donors or whatever. But yeah, like, I'm in full support of whatever path she chooses in life. You know, I will have my input towards things because I'm her father, and that's just how it goes. But I'm not going to stop her from becoming the person that she wants to be. You know, and if I felt like it was really like a crucial thing to step in, then I would. But
it's positive to hear, bro.
yeah, right, exactly, man. Yeah, that's it. I just want her to be happy. Like, it's just as simple as that.
Talking about the...
Come closer, Taylor.
Talking about the...
It's like Jamie from the Joe Rogan
He's
Experience.
ready, man.
Hey,
From
Jamie,
that,
can you
bro.
just pull that up for us, please?
But talking about the evolution that Johnson was saying, and the masculinity that you were talking about. Sorry about my pronunciation.
No, that's all right.
I feel that masculinity could be also cultural as well, you know, like, because like to be a man for a Maori is completely different to be a man for someone from Tonga.
Absolutely.
You know, or for someone from Brazil, you know,
Yeah.
like, so when you go like saying, oh, we need more strong men's, like in Brazil we say macho men's, you know, like, I understand that it's nice to have the security, especially in a community, you know, but I cannot see the problem of people not identifying themselves as the macho man, you know. Some people they're
shunned
are
upon.
not,
It's like
you know,
they're shunned
like-
upon for being macho and all that. But it's quite funny because most men in Brazil do MMA, don't they? Like, it's like I think nowadays it's like the statistics like every 6th person does MMA in
But
Brazil.
at the same time, we probably
Brazilian
have one of
BJJ.
but probably one of the biggest LGBTQ plus communities as well in the world.
Oh yes.
The biggest parade, for sure. So
Well, that's
I mean, Brazilians.
both ways.
Hopefully, this doesn't come across the wrong way. But you guys,
here we
you guys
go.
are quite supportive to your athletes and people that are doing well in the Brazilian culture, and like I think they're
what's his name? De Silva, the UFC fighter.
You know,
Anderson Silva, Wanderlei, Jose Aldo, and stuff like that.
Jose Aldo, yeah.
Like, I think there was a card a couple of months ago where the Brazilian fighters, once they fought, you know, it would the stadium was packed with Brazilians, and then sadly, when the Brazilian fighters stopped fighting, when there was no more, they all left, and then it was empty. You know, they
good.
but they're you know they support their
Racist.
culture, they support theirs, which I'm like, man, that's gangster.
That's mean, but why not
Yeah.
stay for the rest of the show? I think
As
it's
well. Did you want to conclude something, Taylor? You were about to.
Oh,
to
sorry.
finish?
Oh, sorry,
I
brother.
think,
Far out.
no, I didn't. Related to the sport in Brazil, man, we support people because there is not much support from the government for people doing sport in Brazil.
It's all about
Main.
soccer, unfortunately.
not
Yeah,
even
Football?
and even
Football, bro.
Football, bro.
even
Come on,
even
man.
for football, man, like the guys who go up, they come from the slums, you know, like they are kicking coconuts for a while, you know, like before they become what they are, you know. And with UFC, man, most of them they come from a very rough kind of
They come
place,
from
you know,
like
like,
Rio de Janeiro, kind of like
so
up
when
in
they-
the hills.
that's why I think that for us, like, we have this thing of being good with UFC, you know, like for us, man, we see people dying every day in the streets, you know, like, and you have to be aware 24/7 in Brazil.
Yeah,
you know,
you gotta really
need to be
watch
aware,
your-
man. You know, so when a guy goes to fight on UFC, for him, man, like he get that guy like that, I don't know, have all that training and all that support, you know, like, but didn't have the aware 24/7, you know, like.
Watching over your shoulder, yeah.
Because you said something about, before all this, you said something about the evolution of masculinity in different
Yes.
countries. So in your country, right, how a lot of men do MMA. I'm guessing a lot of women do MMA
Yes,
or
definitely.
BJJ as well.
Amanda Nunes.
Is there a level of status amongst men, like, say, if you are a higher like if you're a UFC star, but if you're in one of the preliminary brands before UFC and you do well there, like, or even if you're the best in your club, like you're a 5th dan black belt at whatever, like, is there kind of like a social status to that over, like do you I'm trying to word
You
myself
mean like
correctly.
internally between the fighters or the
Well,
the
not even the fighters, but just amongst Brazilian society as well. Like, do you think it's like there's like a certain status thing? Like, men are not only doing BJJ to defend themselves or anything, but it's for a status reason, for respect and that on the
Yes.
streets. So you can walk through the slums and go, oh, you don't fuck with Aldo or
Yeah.
Pedro or whoever, because that guy will rip your head off. And it's like, cool. So you can walk through the most gun-infested slum and no one will touch you. You know?
I think that is that as well, but most of the time in Brazil, man, you don't
And the
want,
woman, sorry. I
and the
should say.
woman as
Yeah.
well, you don't want to mess it up much with people around, you know,
Yeah.
like, so I used to have this angry face when I'm walking the streets in Brazil, just in case, you know, like someone thinks you're a little bit like, and then I realized that that's not actually my real face. It's just the face that I created.
It's your,
you know, like,
well, it's your hood face, as they call it, you know. And I've got that when I go to Gisborne. That's my hometown, and I'm walking through the hood. Like, I'll broaden my shoulders a little bit more. I'll stand up a bit more straighter, and it's not because I'm looking for problems. It's just I grew up in that hood. I've seen so many fights happen, you know, and it's like you just got to be prepared. You got to show form.
I try and have the opposite effect to that, because if I, you know, if you see me dress, and I sort of dress like you know, was it smart or whatever, and I very intelligently, and then I, you know, keep it straight, make sure I don't tense up my face, so I relax everything. So for me, or my theory is, if don't seem like a threat, I'm invisible.
Absolutely.
Unless I have to, like, if a situation pops off where someone's actually looking for it, he's not gonna look for the guy that's invisible. He's gonna look at it for the guy that's, you know,
got the broad shoulders.
There are some people that's like the difference in Brazil. Like, if you are this guy, normally people doesn't mess it up with you, but if you are the weak one, then is when someone is probably gonna take advantage.
That's why you should learn how to.
If you're a wimp with money, bro, the jack.
That's why you should do martial arts. So when people tend to pick a fight, then you can show them what's up.
Can I just conclude, like, one last thing about the woke culture? It's just like, I know that there is a lot of things that I wouldn't agree, but for example, in Brazil, it helped the African woman a lot, man, because like they got rights that would take them probably 20 years. They got it in these last 2 years with all this woke culture, you know, like, and man, in Africa, we say African Latin, I'll say, I don't know, the African Latin. In Brazil, they are strong women, man. Real strong women.
Yeah, amazing bundas too, bro. You know what I mean?
As well.
Shaking it.
And I think that is good sides and bad side for everything, you know, like.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I was a part of the whole woke movement when it first started up, you know, and I was all down for all this virtuous stuff, but it just kind of, it got a little bit out of hand, and it got to a point where it started to create some kind of instability in society. And I know that some people are probably going to watch this and go, instability's like what? And it's like, well, we've been talking about it just in our gender roles alone. And, you know, trying to redefine what culture, what is traditional. And, you know, it's kind of funny that we're talking about this, because if I can just say, like, the biggest reason, like, I've really kind of pushed this agenda of becoming the best version of yourself and, you know, going to the gym, looking after your body, healthy mind and all that, is because I've had a lot of, like, oh man, it's crazy. I've probably had like nearly, I'd say nearly 10 friends, 10 people that I know. Some of them I haven't even spoken to for years, coming up to me and going, hey bro, remember that day when we were on the work site and you asked me if I was okay? And I said, yeah. Well, I actually wasn't. This was going on in my life, but I just want to thank you for asking me that question that day. And I was just taken back. I was like, whoa, geez. And I've had a lot of other bros that will call me at like 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning, you know, pissed off their head, and they're like, oh, this is going on in my life and I don't know what to do and stuff. And I'm always down for like trying to do what I can to help the bros, but I can only help them as much as I can help myself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to tell them to go and do, I mean, I'll tell them to aspire for great things, but I can't tell them to do something that I wouldn't even do myself. You know, that would just be hypocritical. And it just made me see that there's a big problem in society. I was looking at like male suicide rates, male incarceration rates, and even I mentioned to Johnson earlier today, you know, it's like people try and get virtuous with me about some of my views, and I'm like, well, look, I'm Māori. I represent less than 10% of the overall population, yet somehow we're over 50% of the prison population. We top the ranks when it comes to the lowest education rates, when it comes to income, you know, even lifespan, health, mental health. So like we seem to be really topping the charts when it comes to all the shit things in society now, and it's like, well, what's going on there? And a big part of it, of course, is colonization. And when like people think colonization happened when the Treaty of Waitangi was signed, but it hasn't stopped. It's still going, and we're still trying to dodge our people that are pro-colonial are trying to tell us that they care about our culture, but they care about it to an extent where it's going to make them money. So it's like, oh, we love the Māori culture because when Snoop Dogg and all them come to the country, you can do your haka for them, and and it's good for tourism. The Māori culture. It's like, well, it's not just good for tourism; it's also good for the longevity of the land. It's also good for the mental health of our people. It's also good for the physical health of our people too. It's not just, we're not just some tourism campaign. We are the people of the land, and we know we've got tohunga or traditional doctors out there that know about like traditional Māori healing and that, and we've kind of been encouraged to say, nah, like don't listen to them, listen to this physician. Sorry, I don't know how I'm saying it, but these doctors that learnt a particular style of medicine, but they didn't learn it from through cultural eyes. So I think that culture has a really big thing to do with a lot of the bad statistics that Māori have looming over them, because we have our lack of culture, and we're trying to be assimilated into this thing that is cultureless and it's heartless, and we're going against our own ngākau or our own wairua, or our own hinengaro, as you would call it. Yeah, that's right, hinengaro. Or our own hauora, to fit into this world that wasn't designed to help us or nurture us. It was just designed to make us worker droids. And so I think that's why I've been just so on kind of like, not the warpath, such a strong word, but just like I've just kind of snapped out of the whole like being like a radical leftist now, and I've definitely kind of hung out more in the middle. But because of all the stuff that I've been doing now, it's contributed to me being here with you guys tonight, doing this film exhibition on Saturday, and then working towards all these other projects that are going to be coming up for me in this year. And it's because I took a whole different outlook on life. I took a whole different approach, and I'm really proud of myself for it. And I think it's a big thing to speak out nowadays, because you could be chastised, especially with the power of social media now and cancel culture. And that's another thing I hate, is cancel culture.
I would like
it's literally giving power to cowards, man. Like literally, that's why I don't like.
Well,
about
that's
cancel
what the
culture.
internet does, right?
Yeah.
Gives a voice to everybody.
I would like to challenge your little it's not little, your
My little
your
I'll give you
kaupapa towards the colonialism, the heartbreak and stuff like that, because I feel like, for an example, I don't share those same sort of with that sort of thing, but this is why I'm going to challenge it, because on, let's say, your short film on the haka, there was this, if you even go down on the comments to show how open people are, the so-called colonialism for our culture being all over the world, and our specifically Māori is spreading out, like spreading their wings out to different parts of the world. This was the day after I had said that stuff on the TikTok page, where when I seen your beautiful short film, the haka, and then I seen the comment about
the comments were great, by the way.
Yeah.
I was quite shocked. I thought someone would challenge it. I was like, wow, these are really beautiful comments.
And
So,
this American guy spoke on a young Māori who went into the Navy. He had to do a Navy boot camp because he was either that or he went to prison for some legal troubles, whatever. And then they did this thing, the ceremonial thing, and this young Māori, taught these Americans the haka, I think was kamate or whatever. And then they did it in front of all these like US colonels and stuff like that. So that's why I got to challenge those sort of things with the heartbreak and the colonialism with the worker droids, because I feel like that's in terms of that's what, as a human society, we're evolving. We're not like living in caves anymore. We're not we're not having to to hunt for our food because our food's on supply. At Countdown, you know, we can build our own sort of stuff. It's like the internet. You can either use it for, people use it for good or they use it for bad. You know, it's using that sort of resource.
Absolutely.
Which is why, can you dive deeper into your statement with the colonialism, the heartbreak of our culture? And
so what I was getting at is like, you know what, you're right. Everyone loves the haka. Everyone, I'm not just talking about the film. I'm talking about the actual haka, like kamate or tikatonu or all those kind of
te puru.
Yeah, te puru. You know, so you got all those haka, but it's still like, I've got a lot of respect for it, but I for me it still sits into that kind of like tourism and selling our culture to the world as an attraction. You know, it's like, you know, and it's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not saying that us, you know, the Māori culture is that attracts tourism is a bad thing, but it definitely puts our culture in a whole different perspective. You know, where it's not the leading culture of the country. Like, we don't live under a decolonized umbrella. Like, we live under the umbrella of colonization, and with that, you know, there's certain different states.
Could you give examples of that sort of under the umbrella of colonization?
Well, I mean, you look at how long did it take for New Zealand to get a Māori party. Took years before we got the Māori party. Took years before we got Māori TV. It took years, like almost a whole lot of like protesting in that, for us not to lose our language. Because remember, when our grandparents were young,
1930s.
Yeah, 1930s, I think, through to the 50s, I think, like Māori weren't allowed to speak. Yeah, exactly. And that trauma from that has definitely passed on through the generations. I mean, I used to go to a kura kaupapa, or what do you call it, total immersion school in Gisborne when I first started. It's called Waikirikiri. And I was speaking fluent te reo. And then I went to another school, Te Wharau, and then by the time I got to Hamilton East School when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I completely lost it. Like, boom, just like that, overnight. I was like, it didn't take long for me not to speak te reo, to kind of be assimilated into Western education, to the point where I don't know how to speak te reo. And
what about today?
My te reo is atrocious.
Oh no, what about today in the culture? Because you were going through timelines and stuff.
So I mean, yes, our culture is far more celebrated. I totally agree with that. But there's so much work that needs to be done. Like it's evolving, but it's not necessarily evolving and moving in the direction that we want it to go. There's still a lot of work to be done there. You know, we still have to convince all the politicians that, you know, decolonization is the way to go. We still have to convince all the corporations that decolonization is the way to go. And do you think they're going to choose that path? No, not at all. Unless it's profitable.
And there's skepticism as well. That's the problem. Like, even when you bring the culture to the forefront, people, especially older people, they remember, they have that memory of like, should not to be trusted, you know, like, because in Brazil it's a similar story, but we got 500 years on our back, which is a little bit longer. Yeah. And it's still, the story is the same, if not worse. Yeah. Because it's a fight that it takes years and years and years, and it gets better, but then there's a dip. Yeah. And then it gets better again. And then it falls again, and there's again, because again we are in a mainly capitalist world that things oscillate. Yeah, you know, like, so if you already there's this great video that everybody's lined up, and the guy said, whoever had breakfast, blah, blah, one step ahead, and then they start a race, and then you see how many people are already so far at the front to race the same race. So that's the thing. Even if you have all these reparations and these ways of decolonizing a nation, you're talking about years, something that was built for so many years. So like, to unpack all those things and to make it fair, especially when we come to reparation. When you say reparation, like, white people freak out. Reparation!
It's like, what are you talking about? I don't know you anything. Or they give you just get over it. It was in the past. It's like, we're still dealing with the effects.
All these things leave that wounds open.
Yeah.
You know, so sorry.
And it's going to take time to heal them
it
too.
takes time, and but that's where our work is, to
And that's-
talk about it, to do the
Yeah.
That's where
To rip it off, the
my,
Band-Aid.
my film Search for Hawaiki touches on. You know, it's definitely a result of colonization and you know, almost, dare I say it, kind of falling victim to the pressures of it, and especially how we approach mental health under the banner of colonization. It's like, bro, back in the day, if you had some kind of mental illness, this is like before colonization, if you were like probably had bipolar, which I don't know if it was known as bipolar, you were revered if you were considered crazy. Like, you were respected, you know, you were treated as like you were the special person, you know, like in the village, like you might have been going around doing some crazy ass shit, but the villagers would look at you and be like, this person's like speaking to our ancestors right now. Our ancestors are trying to move through this person, or, you know, they are a special person. We treated people with mental health better than how we would treat ourselves. And nowadays, under the colonial banner, we're told, oh, they need to get medicated, they need to go to all these therapy sessions, they need to get put in the mental ward and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, that's a bit of like what Search for Hawaiki like touches on. It doesn't touch too much on the mental health aspect of things, but it touches more on the integration back into society after some form of incarceration.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, and it's reconnecting with family, and, you know, using his own culture, the main character's culture, to, you know, as a means of healing, and reconnecting with the world, the outside world.
Are we gonna watch this here in Fitzengo? It's coming out soon.
It's coming out soon, so it's coming out in June in Wellington. So yeah, unfortunately, you guys won't get to see it.
End of the year, maybe. We'll bring it back.
You know, yeah, I'll probably will bring something
premiere
back.
tickets.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, if you're in Wellington at the time, just let me know, bro.
There you go.
You'll definitely
I've
be on
always
the
wanted
list.
to do short films down there.
Yeah, it's a really fun experience, bro. I think you know, even like I'm in a feature film that's meant to come out this year called 1978. So shout out to Clarative Media, shout out to Isaac Lee for casting me, Maddie Sharp and Jess. You guys are awesome.
Take Johnson with you next time.
Yeah, there's this guy Johnson over here. Just
Good man.
He's
Trying to be
easier
the hardest work in the room, but pretty chill.
He's a lot easier to work with than I am. That's for sure. You know.
I'm always keen to improve. You know.
Yeah.
Got that attendance on lock.
Look at this. This guy's already putting his CV together. I am honest, reliable, hardworking, trustworthy.
Johnson Manukau on Facebook and Instagram if you want to hit me up.
Yeah, tag him in. You know, but yeah. So I mean, that was a special story because it does touch on the things that we've been talking about. But you know, for it to be 11 years in the making, and ever since we done that film, like now I'm just churning out projects one after the other. Once I learnt the process of how to bring a film to life. Like, I mean, I'd worked on other films and directed other stuff, but it was mainly just me and a camera and someone like holding some audio gear. It wasn't as intricate as actually a film set. And when I remember my producer, Rich Turner, shout out Rich Turner, you're the man, my man. Yeah, of course I was going to give you a shout out. He pretty much like, oh geez, what was I going on about before I gave Rich Turner a shout out? So he was the driving force behind the film. He was the reason like that film was able to take off, and I was able to learn a lot of the like pre-production processes and all that stuff. And once I got my head around all that stuff on a professional level, bro, I just went for it. Like I've just been away, so I've been writing scripts, acting. I mean, last year I was the Wendy's guy, which was pretty funny. I remember like starting out in acting and being like, I'd never do ads, and nah, man, I'm not that kind of actor. Like I'm
I'll still do them. I just dislike doing them.
Doing them, mate. But you know, this is me, and I'm like, you know, I'm like one of those actors. Like I just like want to go method and all that. And then suddenly this Wendy's commercial came up, and I'm like,
oh wait,
yo,
what is life?
Like fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And it was like, I think I was more excited because I got a chance to just go somewhere out of Wellington to do an acting gig. So literally, I caught a night bus from Wellington, got into Auckland, went to a mate's place. Then she let me borrow her car to go to the set, so I was like, sweet. So
shout out to that friend.
Yeah,
that friend.
Shout out to
he
Auckland,
knows.
Fred. You're the bomb. She's probably watching going, oh, jeez, don't say my name.
Somewhere to sleep and a car.
Yeah,
Fuck,
and a
that's
car,
a gangster
far
brand
out.
right there.
And then a free feed of Wendy's as well. But yeah, so literally got off the bus, grabbed the car, went to set for about 2 hours, came back, and then just kind of like hung out in Auckland for the day.
2 hours?
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
And then, yeah,
love
literally.
those days. Love those days.
Bro.
Love those 2 hour days.
And
I
then
love
literally about maybe 5 hours later, I was back on the night bus back to Auckland. I was like, I hope I never have to do that again. But that was amazing. That was awesome. So rock and roll. Yeah. So, you know, I was very fortunate to do that. And yeah, I've just been, like I said, project after project, and I now know what to do, and I know how to make things with speed now, you know, and especially in an industry that can take a lot of time, like, you know, but if you can show that you're competent and you know what you're doing, and you're like, look, I work fast, I work hard and fast, and I can pump out projects for you if
And
you want.
amazingly. Hard and fast and amazingly.
Amazing. Like there will
You
be
need
nothing.
me.
There will be nothing to critique in my scripts, which is so not true because there's always some kind of critique. But it's fine because you can always deal with that on the day of the filming too. Like, you know, and scripts, as much as you want them to be a certain way, like when you get on the actual set or where you're going to film, it changes completely because you're like, okay, I definitely had somewhere different in my mind, but now that we've got this, I think I'm going to put that dresser there, I put the TV there, and then maybe they can walk in from this side now compared to that side. So yeah,
Adaptability
is key, man.
Taylor, did you want to say something before we wrap it up? I saw you coming closer to the mic.
I'm scared to start a conversation and take another 2 hours.
I'm sure we can go
good,
on
man.
it.
We're on fire.
Honestly,
We're on fire.
I'm not lying. Like even the last podcast I was on, he only does like 45-minute podcasts, and I'm like, okay, sweet as. Like nearly 2 hours later, he's
We
like,
just scratched the surface.
yeah, yeah, literally, like we just scratched the surface. But I think going back into that commercial thing, sorry, just quickly, is like you mentioned the other day about how I turned down a role for another gig. And that was because, yeah, that one. I thought we should mention that.
Yes, please.
Yeah, like I said, pretty much what you said was exactly on point. So thanks for delivering it the way you did. Because I was like, you are a very good listener.
That's why he's
keep
the
you
head
on,
of
mate.
Altbays.
Keep you on, mate. And but I remember it was so I got sent this email from someone who said, hey, do you want to audition for this thing? And I was reading it, and maybe I was a little bit like pretentious at the time, or maybe I was like maybe I was filled with a bit too much self-importance, but I was like, no shit, I was broke as at the time, like art life. I was broke as. I got the script, and it was like the money was pretty good. I was like, oh man, that's mean money, like shit. And then I read up the character description, and it was like this vile man that's like beating up his wife, and he had to like stand behind the door when the corrections officer came up to the door to see if everything's all right, and she's got bruises on her face, and she's like, oh, I just tripped down the stairs, and he's behind the door going, you better shut up, I'm gonna waste you, you know. And it was like, he was a pretty vile character, and I just said, because it was for like, well, I'll just say it was for a particular ministry, I don't want to get us in trouble. It was for a particular ministry, and I remember asking the guy, I said, so you're doing this casting, you're looking, you know, for this character, and does the character have to be Māori or Pacific Islander? And they were like, yeah, the client has specifically asked either Māori or Pacific Islander. And I was like, who's the client? And he goes, oh, this particular ministry plus a panel of people in this certain thing. And I was like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah, you know, it's not as bad as it seems. I'm like, bruv, like I'm reading the script, man. And I'm like, I mean, like, I'm not against the idea of a Māori or a Polynesian, you know, Pacific Islander getting casted, but it's the fact that you're just saying like you only want exclusively a brown person. Like, what are you saying, that Pākehā people are not capable of it? Like, is it a statistics thing? Like, you know, what is it? And they're like, well, no, that's just what the client wanted. So the people that were making this, that were hired to make this ad, didn't really investigate or look into it too deeply either, which was another red flag to me, because I'm like, well, are you kind of seeing the repercussions of what this could do? Like, you know, like we're in a pretty like what would I say, progressive place nowadays. And yet, like, you know what? It'd be horrible for me to say this, but it's probably true. Statistically, we probably do top domestic violence rates. Like, I would not be surprised there. But it doesn't mean that we have to sell it to the world, you know. I mean, Once We're Warriors already done that for us. Like, we've already had that moment of being depicted as, you know, ruffians and all that. And, like, you know, me and the bro here can vouch for that. We've both witnessed similar things in our upbringing, bro, you know. So it was a very empowering moment to turn that role down, even though I was fucking broke, bruv. Like, I was broke as. I keep repeating it because that's all I remember is just being so broke and then having the kind of, I guess, money and integrity to turn it down, even though on paper it probably was a good idea to do it, you know, just because it was a role, and it would have been a good role to play. But I just felt morally it was just wrong to, and I think it was just more my political, just the politics of it was the fact that, it was like, we can only have a brown person playing
that's why I was like, bro, know your value, you know.
Yeah. Don't sell your soul.
Don't
try not to, at least.
But then we were talk about Once the Warriors. Cliff Curtis, he had in Once the Warriors, he had the worst role, but yet he didn't let that sort of thing get him down, because now he acted with people as high as Eddie Murphy. You know?
Robert De Niro.
My man,
Johnny Depp.
Denzel Washington. And he didn't let that sort of thing box me. That's why I said, bro, I would have taken that role, because I wouldn't let that, you know, that thing hold me back, because at the end of the day, it is make believe, but it's what you want to present to yourself. You know, it's what you want to, you know, have reflect you.
It was definitely a virtuous decision. Like, I'm not gonna lie, bro. You know, it was like, I probably should have taken the role, but like I said, like,
but now you can talk about it and be like, you know, I didn't do it.
But also, like I was saying earlier, was that I haven't even seen it come out, so the odds of it actually being,
so
I should go and investigate online and actually see if it came out, because if it didn't, I'll be like, ta-da.
I mean, they could have paid you and not showed it.
I mean, that could have been the case too, but I think if they probably thought, if I had turned it down, there were probably other actors that said, there would have been, man, and I'm not kidding you, there would have been other actors that would have felt funny about it as well. So,
but I kind of think that touches a bit on the woke side.
Oh yeah, totally. I was totally a Wokie at that time. Hard out. I was totally a part of that movement. So yeah, like I said, it was quite virtuous, you know, standpoint, and kind of seeing it as more of a political decision than just being like, look, you're an actor. There's certain things that are required of you. Sometimes you're gonna have to play characters you don't want to play. You're gonna have to do things you don't want to do, and you know, and that's just the way it is, man. So get over your feelings and get on that set and go and do some fucking acting, you know.
Man, some of our guests, they're surprised when I say that I dealt with xenophobia, for example. You know, for being a foreigner, like you. They would be surprised, but with my mouth shut, I'm just an average white man.
You actually look like my mate Steven.
Steve!
Steven, and shout out to Steven in Palmerston North, bruv.
And as someone who cares about people, I was paying attention to what you were saying, you know, like of the statistics, and you said, well, and probably they are right. Probably there are more brown people who are in the high rates of domestic violence. And I'll tell you a quick story that really taught me how to understand these social injustices, because Brazil is dodgy ass, and people smash glasses, you know, in your car. You're just driving. So my sister wakes me up. Well, she didn't wake me up, but I woke up and I saw a message from my sister, and then she was telling me that she was driving, and someone came on the passenger seat, smashed her window, so the glass threw on her face. It cut her. They grabbed the purse. They ran away, you know, and she was a bit traumatized. You know, mom and dad were not happy with that, of course. But man, do you know what was the first thing that my sister said after she told me the story? Because it was a black person who did that. She said, Leo, this country, because we had Bolsonaro at the moment, was the president before the one who is now, who was quite extremist and all this stuff. And, and the first thing after suffering all of that, she said, this country is very sad at the moment. People are starving. Right? So
people are hungry.
So instead of doing what maybe would be expected from a lot of people by saying, motherfucker, bro, took my stuff.
It was a black man, you know.
She wasn't angry, she was sad.
She reflected on the social injustice of a system that is broken, that people have to go through that. I saw exactly what you said when they say, oh, the statistics. I'm like, well, maybe there's a big problem that goes back to maybe the colonization thing that we were saying.
Absolutely.
That keeps those numbers high.
Displacement, you know, removal of culture, all that kind of stuff, man. And I mean, look at the result. Look where it's led us. So. And
then you turn the prison system into a business. Yeah. You know, like the more heads you have, the more money you're making. Yeah. You bring in more business to a country. So that's why, like, a lot of people say, oh, the jails in New Zealand are pretty good, you know, like they're well prepared. And I'm like, I don't know what your parameter is to say that a prison is good.
Like what you know? Part? Like people still get beaten up in these prisons. People are still killing
Drugs
themselves.
Drugs are still going in there. Phones
and even prison grape, you know, is still happening. And you know, it's not a good place. Like, I mean, there's those people that like abolish prisons, and I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, we have to supplement it with something else that is far better than what we got now.
What would you supplement prison?
Well, I mean, it had to be some level of therapy. But I was watching this show on Netflix, and it was like World's Toughest Prisons, and it was like this guy who'd been wrongfully, I think he got put away for manslaughter, or he was wrongfully accused. And he goes into these prisons and spends like a week in there, in each of these like gnarly ass prisons. And he went to one in, I think it was like Norway or something. And like, it was like, he was like weirded out by it. He was like, oh my gosh, like I've got a private toilet in here. I have a warm bed. I've got a heater. Like, he's just like, what the... Goes into the kitchen and the inmates are like cutting up veggies with knives, like with stuff that you could hurt someone with. And the prison guards like chilling out having coffee with the prison inmates, and they're like playing table tennis and that. And I'm like, okay, what are you guys doing so different? Like, I want to tell me more. Like, is it like, are you guys more open to you know, that level of conformity, or is it like... Or is it because, you know, and another thing could be because they're not a colonized country and they're working within their own cultural boundaries.
What about the level of danger the prisoners give? Like, I thought there was a type of level of prisoner you are.
I think
from like
they do still have riot squads and that there for if shit gets sour, but it's like a once in a year thing where there's just that one dude that's just not, you know, that's just having a bad day, and then they'll just move in, they'll just segregate them. But they don't put you in like a concrete cell. Like, they don't do that over there. They've got a whole different way of rehab. It's more of a rehab center. So like for somewhere that like a junkie would go to, but they have like a supermarket there, and it was really amazing what I saw. And I was like, I hope no one ever has to go into prison, and I hope people can just, you know, not do ratchet things to each other. But unfortunately we live in a world where...
Be kind, everyone.
Yeah, be kind to each other if you can. And you know...
And the idea is to get out of the prison being a better person.
Yeah,
right?
the idea is to better the people that go in there, and to understand that humans do make mistakes, where I think we punish... It's almost like the society we live in now. It's like we're paying to not go to jail. We're paying our taxes. So if you don't pay your taxes and you don't pay the fine, you're going to jail, like for tax evasion, and they'll run you through the mill. So, you know, it's, you know, we're paying to stay out of jail, not only here in New Zealand, but in many other places around the world. Where and it's not about rehabilitation; it's about punishment. That's why they call it crime and punishment. You know, for Norway and what they're doing, and like I said, they're not a colonized country, so they get to work within their own cultural boundaries in their own nation, where, you know, they have their culture and everything there. And I think for them it's a lot easier to rehabilitate than bringing in this other system from another country to a people that have never heard of a prison, and then just throwing them in there by the bucket loads. You know, it's a horrible beast that we're dealing with. And I don't like it, and I hope that we can one day find a better way to achieve, well, in the long in the long run, world peace.
The arts help.
And the arts help. I mean, that's what I hope to achieve is overall, it's like, I think the more you can inspire people by doing good in your own life, I think the better you can make society in your own little way. So I think that's how we full circle this whole conversation.
Beautiful. Johnson, before we wrap it up, I wanted to give a shout out to I'm Hope because I've been looking at your beautiful t-shirts and I didn't mention. So can you just send us a shout out to our bros from I'm Hope? Do it, my man.
Kia ora. So, yeah, shout out to my people from I Am Hope with Mike King, IT Heavy Hitters, suicide prevention, mental health awareness.
Hard out.
Nice, eh?
And it looks amazing too, you know?
I'd wear that for sure.
Yeah, I'm wearing it currently and it looks good.
Yeah. Hard out.
It suits you, my bro. It suits you.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a throw someone under the bus to Paya. So we were just talking tonight, and she said she's keen to do like 5Ks every day next month in the June for suicide awareness and suicide prevention and mental health. And so I'll join her on that sort of journey, but on something, because I do 10K every day, try not to flex, but I do that every day. So I'm going to pick something that's equally as difficult for her running, because she's not a runner, she doesn't like running.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to pick something equally as difficult, and then we can, we're going to spread something, raise some money, get for the suicide prevention, mental health, and then give it to the bros at I Am Hope. That's a hope. That's a hope.
I've done a marathon for the Mental Health Foundation, Roundabays in Wellington. That was 2021. So, yeah, I've still got my shirt, actually. It's a beautiful purple shirt, but it's one of those ones, the fabric, it makes you all sweaty in that, so I don't really wear it. I just kind of leave it where
Keep it.
Yeah, just keep it nice. Nice place.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. What a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure being here,
Good
man. Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you.
So we'll all be at the Mercury Twins Cinemas on Saturday 4 p.m.
4 p.m. Now, I also four short films. So both the cinemas are going to be going, Cinema 1 and 2, which I just found out tonight. So I'm like, because I was going to give a speech before the whole thing takes off. And I'm like...
2 speeches.
And I'm like, yeah. So I was like, I was like, oh, and are these happening at exactly the same time? Because I didn't know she had both cinemas up. And then she was like, no, I've separated them 15 minutes. So I get 15 minutes grace. So I can come into one cinema.
Mate,
do a weddle.
Do a weddle, and be like, kia ora everyone, tihe muri ora. And then go, thank you. I've now got to go to the next cinema right next door and do the same speech for them. So thank you very much. Enjoy your time.
Yeah. I'll be in the first one, feel more special.
Yeah. No.
Get the speech first.
I think Anne was kind of thinking like if like they both don't sell out and needs enough to squash everyone into one cinema, then she might do that as well. But I think she feels pretty confident that we'll get reasonable numbers for both. So, yeah. So Saturday, 4 p.m. down at the Mercury Twin Cinemas. Come check out some of my films. I promise you won't be disappointed. You'll be quite shocked, amazed. And I think a lot of the confidence. I think a lot of people will leave it very inspired. And I hope they do. And understanding that, a Māori boy from a small town can leave and achieve some really awesome stuff in their lives. I mean, look, me and Johnson are a fine example of it. So yeah, we're breaking some boundaries.
Breaking the circle.
We're breaking the cycle, and I really respect that about you, Johnson. And I think you should be very proud of yourself. I know your whānau are, and I know that your ancestors are, bruv. So well done to you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Shout out these guys, Fredrick Pokai, Johnson Manukau. This is the Altbays show, live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. We got some cool people coming next week. I will check it out. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Kakite. Peace.
Big man team, bro. Big man team.